I just want to say to everybody else who's wearing plaid today, good on you. You've listened to the Lord. And I just want to take a brief moment and kind of share. I might get a little bit emotional, but that's okay. How many know it's okay to be emotional in church? That last song that we sang has such a profound meaning for me, because standing in the fire of my trial and beginning to understand how good and how faithful God is on His timing. And I think that's the reality. Sometimes we think if we don't see it right away that God doesn't want it for us, or He's forgotten us. And it was in September of 2000 when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember, and there's a reason why I'm telling this story today. I remember being ushered into the room where they gave me the diagnosis. They didn't know what type of cancer it was, but they realized it was a leukemic process. And the doctor came in, and my wife was there, pregnant at the time, with our daughter-to-be. We didn't know it was going to be a girl. And he just came in and said, "You have cancer. You have a very aggressive leukemic process going on in your body, and you're very sick, and you need to start a very aggressive form of treatment." And immediately I thought, that's it, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And my first words as I looked to my wife, I said, "I'm never going to get to hold our baby." Today, my baby turns 21. Can I tell you, God is so faithful. And whatever your storm is, whatever your trial is, the words of that song, there is another in the fire, and He's there with you, and it's on His time. And as you have to walk it through, please don't ever put your faith in an outcome. Let your faith just be in who God is. And because of who He is, there can be an outcome. Maybe not on your timing, but we've come to understand God is good and He is faithful, all right? Okay, all right, okay, I don't want to cry anymore, okay. Okay, that was just a preamble. How many are ready to dive into God's Word? 3 people, 4 people, okay. We started a series last week called There Must Be a Better Way. There must be a better way. And looking at the way culture and society is going, and how crazy it is getting out there, and how depressed and defeated and discouraged, people living with anxiety and fear across the board. So we're saying, hey, there's got to be a better way. As we step into 2022, what is that better way? And we've learned last week that it's Jesus, right? Yep. Flat out, it is just Jesus. It's about being yoked to Him, about kind of understanding that when we work with Jesus, His pace is perfect, His plan is perfect, He's not going to rush ahead, He's not going to fall too far behind, that we can just kind of work with Him about being yoked to Him. And this week, how many here, you like to work out? You go to gyms or stuff like that. Maybe you got a home gym, and I love cardio. I'm a cardio guy. My favorite piece of cardio equipment is, if you've ever been to the gym, it's not just those little Stairmaster. You know, they have those big giant Stairmasters that look like an escalator, and you get on it and you're looking over the whole gym, and everybody looks at you and say, "Wow, that guy's awesome. He's on that escalator." That's my favorite piece of equipment. And every time I would go, I would jump on that. And every time I would go, there was a guy that was on the treadmill. I remember the first time he's just kind of walking. I'm like, what a putz. He's just walking. Look at me, I'm working my butt off here, and I'm going for it. He's just going on a leisurely walk. But before I knew it, by the time at the end of his workout, this guy is in an all-out sprint. And he's on an all-out sprint, not just for like 30 seconds, but he's going for like minutes. I was like, oh, okay, that's impressive. I take everything back I said. You are better than I am. But you ever notice that if you were to put a treadmill, ever watched treadmill fails? Come on, you know you have. You see people just try to jump on a treadmill that's going full speed. How many of you know it's going to end bad every single time? Every single time it's going to end bad. You think, I could do it. I'll pace my, poop, and they're gone. Just like that. Isn't that what life is like sometimes? We're on a treadmill and we don't start out really quick, but we get on and we're just kind of walking and we think we can handle a little bit more. So we turn up the speed and little by little, we barely notice that, hey, it's increasing and we do a little bit more, we add a little bit more, we do a little bit more, we get a little bit more efficient. We think, I can handle this, I can handle this, I can handle a little bit more. And maybe we take on another job, or maybe we take on a student loan and we begin to accumulate some debt. We're like, hey, I can afford this car payment. I'll just work a little bit harder, and life goes on. And all of a sudden you get a girlfriend or a boyfriend who becomes a fiance, who becomes a husband or a wife. And you think, hey, we can add a little bit more to this. And so we bring kids into the mix. And then all of a sudden you realize with little babies, there's diapers. I can tell you, the day that we finished diapers in our house, it was a glorious moment. It was like the heavens opened up, the angels descended, and the hallelujah chorus was loud and clear. We never had to buy another diaper. And that was a glorious time. So let me tell you, if you're a new parent and you got diapers, it does come to an end. Don't worry about it, it's coming. But then you add, well, we can add another kid, and then you get another kid, and there's more diapers, and then all of a sudden there's preschool. And then in Canada, kids are either going to get involved in soccer or hockey and realize how busy that is, and you're shuttling. Maybe it's going to be dance or ballet or gymnastics, and then you got braces, and then there's second jobs and more debt. Then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you feel overwhelmed, and you're thinking, how did we get here? And little by little, you just kind of added more. Little by little, you got busier and busier. And what started out as a leisurely walk, now you're in a full-on sprint and you don't know what to do. I wonder how many here today would say, or maybe if you're watching online, would say that you feel a little bit rushed. You feel just a little bit anxious. Maybe you feel overwhelmed, and what's happening is you would just kind of say, and I hear it so often, there's just not enough hours in the day to get everything done. There's just not enough time. And so you try to become more efficient. You try to squeeze time out of everything that you can do. You try to multitask. When you go into a store, you're scanning and thinking, which one is going to be the fastest line? Because I'm going to get in, I'm going to get out, and I'm going to add a little bit extra time. And it's not that you're just rushed now. And what happens is occasionally, or you're often, more than not, disappointed in life, wondering there's got to be more than this. Something is missing. I'm just so busy. I've got no time for what I love. I've got no time for who I love. Life is not supposed to be this way. What if I told you this? And I hope you get this statement, and I hope it resonates with you and causes you to take a look at your life. And if I was to say this, what if the greatest enemy of the life you want is actually the life you're living? What if the greatest enemy of the life that you're longing for is actually the life that you're living? And this is actually a difficult message to preach, because most often leaders in the church, they live very opposite of this. They think there's so much to do, I'm going to get it done. And if you know me in any way, shape, or form, I'm not a guy that likes to sit. I hate to sit. Even when I go on holidays, where are all the ones do you like when you go on holidays? You just love to kick back by the pool, drink in hand. You're like, oh yeah. Not me. I hate that. I actually hate that. When I go on vacation, I am like diligent. I've got things planned. We've got outings. My family laughs at me because they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, listen, we got things to do. We got to get there. I'm going to get you there all safe. And then when I get there, I'm going to spy out the land. And while everybody else is sleeping, I get up, I go and tour the neighborhood. I check out, if we were in Florida, I was checking out all the grocery stores, finding all the best deals, finding out where all the best coffee shops are, did all the groceries, got my coffee, got my second coffee, came back home, the family's still sleeping. I'm like, you're missing out. You're missing out. If we're anywhere, I love to tour. And it's just like, hey, when I'm on holidays, it's like I turn up the treadmill. I'd be like, hey, I'm never going to be here again, so I got to see as much as I can. And the reality, what happens for so many of us in life, we fall into the mindset, especially in the church and church leaders, they say this, well, you know what? The devil doesn't take a day off, so I got to keep pressing and I got to keep going and I got to keep working. The devil doesn't take off. I hear people say this, you know what? I'll slow down when I get to heaven. Well, can I tell you, if you don't slow down, you're probably going to get to heaven a whole lot quicker. Right? And I'm guessing if I was to sit down with any single one of you, you would say, I'm busy. I'm busy. I've got places to be. I've got things to do. I've got bills to pay. I've got kids to raise. I've got social media to check out. And just so you know, you're going to have a driveway or a walkway to shovel tomorrow as we get 35 to 40 centimeters of snow. Glory to God. You got meals to plan. And maybe you're at home. I got laundry to cook or laundry to do, meals to cook. If you're cooking your laundry, that's wrong. Maybe you're multitasking. You're trying to warm something up on your dryer. I don't know. Sort clothes, buy more clothes. You're sorting clothes, buying more clothes. I got to get on social media. I got to do all my updates on my Instagram and my Facebook and my Twitter. I got to binge watch a show to get it all in. Life just gets faster and faster. In reality, that's what happens. It doesn't slow down. It gets busier and busier. And what we continue to do? Turn up the speed on the treadmill. I can handle a little bit more. I could do a little bit more. And what happens is we're busy doing the things we don't really need to do. And we're actually neglecting the things we should be doing. But we're thinking we're efficient because I can handle more. We don't have time for family anymore. I'm busy doing this. You got no time for deep conversations with friends to engage. There's no rest. There's no reflection. There's no time for you to even read God's word or seek God. You just don't have time. It's the number one excuse that I hear for people in their faith. I wish I just had more time. And the reality is we look at everybody's busy, so we think, well, if everybody's busy, I must be doing this right. Everyone's busy, so I'm right on the same page. I must be doing it right. What if the greatest enemy to the life that you want is actually the life that you're living? And that's a really hard question to ask yourself because that doesn't put the blame on anybody. It just puts the blame on you. So there must be a better way, right? There's got to be a better way that we don't have to live this incredible rat race of life, that we can actually slow down. Look at your neighbor and say, hey, it's time to slow down. See, this whole series is designed, we're not just looking at the truth of Jesus, which is very important. The truth of Jesus is very important. We're always going to do that. Why? Because the truth is going to set you free. But we're also really taking some time to examine the way that Jesus lived, the way that he lived his life, the way that he lived and loved, because I think in that is the better way. In that is the better way for you and I to begin to live our lives, where it will actually be hitting the decrease button in a very healthy way on that treadmill of life. And when you really look at the Gospels, I find it interesting when you look at the story of Jesus and what happened in his life. And it's fascinating when you look at the way that he lived, when you truly examine it. You think about all the Gospels really sum up the last 3 years of Jesus' life. That's what we do. He turned 30. He started his mission from his father. He recruited this motley crew of 12 individuals that he began to disciple them with kingdom principles and taught them how to live and love the way that he lived and loved. He endured the hatred of the Pharisees and the other religious leaders of the time. He actually resisted the temptation of the devil when he went into the wilderness for 40 days. He healed all sorts of sick people. He loved all sorts of hurting people that came to him. He always made time. He preached the word of God fearlessly, fully, wherever he went. He actually fulfilled 351 Old Testament prophecies. That's how good he was. But here's the deal. When you examine his life, never once did he run. Never once did he feel overwhelmed. Never once did he feel too busy. He was never rushed. He was never rushed. He never said, hey guys, let's double time it here. We took too much time feeding these 5,000. Forget about the bread. Have someone else pick that up. We got to go. And if Judas doesn't get on board, he knows the agenda. He can meet us at the next location. Jesus was always busy with important stuff, but Jesus never once ran. You can't find it anywhere in Scripture. And I think that's a pretty powerful example for you and I. And I love it in Mark chapter 1, verses 16 to 18. As he's calling his disciples, as he's kind of fulfilling the mission that God has for his life. And you read it in verse 16. What does it say? As Jesus walked. As he walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. And he said, "Come, follow me." Jesus said, "And I will send you out to fish for people." And it says, at once they left their nets and they followed him. Not rushed. Just picture Jesus walking on the shore. "Hey guys, follow me." Think about that. Just that in itself. Can you imagine you're at your job one day, you're kind of hanging out and you're doing what you do, and all of a sudden this guy walks by, he says, "Hey, follow me." Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, let's follow him. Think about it. That's what happened. The guys are tending their nets. They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's follow him." And they just began to follow him. They began to live an unrushed life. They were probably like, hey, we got to get the nets ready, get them dry, get them out, and think about all the things that they had to do, and they just began to follow Jesus, living an unrushed life. And so if we follow an unrushed Jesus, shouldn't we be living an unrushed life? Shouldn't that be a reflection of how we are living? But let's just be honest. If we're being honest, and our lives probably really don't reflect the way that Jesus lived his life. Yeah, we know the truth, and we can preach the truth, and we can declare the truth, and we understand the truth, but all of us live a rushed life. We're always busy. We're always adding more speed to the treadmill. We're always thinking, hey, I just need more time to get it done. So what do you do if you find yourself stressed, if you find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself exhausted, trying to get it all done, always falling short? What does the scripture say? Well, last week we looked at Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30 in the NIV, but I want to really help it come alive, and we're going to read it from the Message here. And what's the Message? It's kind of like a paraphrase version. Eugene Peterson, a brilliant kind of scholar, took some time to write the Bible and to really expound on it. Not that the Word of God needed expounding on, but to make it really simple. And some portions he does just cause it to come alive and really help you to grasp it and understand it. And this is what he said, because last week we learned that, what does Jesus say? "Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest," right? Yeah. Check out what Eugene Peterson, how he expounds on it. And he says this: "Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me." And I love this line: "You'll recover life. You'll recover life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." How many could use living freely and lightly, right? How many could say, "Hey, I want to recover my life. I want to get off this treadmill. I am so done being rushed." Jesus says, "Get away with me. Get away with me and you will recover life." Then he says, "Walk with me and watch how I do it." Not trying to look to everyone else and, hey, how is that successful person doing? Or what's the keys that this person is doing? If I do those, maybe I'm going to find that fulfillment in life. Maybe I will be kind of satisfied in life. No. Jesus says, walk with me and watch how I do life. Just don't believe what I believe, but actually live the way that I live. And the reality is a lot of us believe who Jesus is. We believe that, but we don't live the way that he lived. Why? Because we let our situations and our circumstances dictate the speed of our treadmill. We let our kind of arrogance and our pride, thinking I could do more, I can handle more, so I could do this. Look at his life. Jesus, he was given 33 years to fulfill his mission. He waited 30 years to start. He waited 30 years to start. How much more effective do you think we could look at it and say, what if he started when he was 27? What if he had 3 more years? How many more people could he have impacted? If he would have just got an earlier start, but hey, he said, I'm going to do that. He waited 30 years to start. Then he was baptized. And then you think for the very start of his ministry, what does he do? He goes into the wilderness for 40 days. He goes into the wilderness for 40 days to be alone with his Father and to be tempted. You think about his first miracle. He's at a wedding. He's at a wedding and they run out of wine. And Jesus doesn't look at him and say, well, sorry guys, I'm the Son of God. I don't really have time for this. This is not really high on the priority list. And he didn't say, well, I've been here for about an hour, so I got a jet because I'm really called to do some incredible things. He actually stayed to the very end of the wedding. And it was at the end of the wedding that he turned the water into wine. You look at the synagogue leader, Jairus, who comes to him in desperation. He says, my little girl is dying. Would you come back with me? Jesus says, yeah, I'm going to come back with you. Jairus is probably, yes, all right, let's go. We got to get there. She's dying. And what happens? There's this sick lady that has been sick for years. She reaches out and touches him. And Jesus says, stop that. I got to go to Jairus' house. I'm too busy for this. You're going to have to wait your turn. He looks right at her and says, oh my goodness. Yeah. And he spends time with her and he invests in her and he says, you're healed. Get up and go and live your life. All the while now a servant comes from Jairus and says, don't bother the teacher anymore. Your daughter's dead. And think about Jairus. Oh, if we would have just got there sooner. If we would have just rushed a little bit more. And what does Jesus say? Don't worry about it. It's all good. And they walk. And they walk. They don't rush. They walk. Lazarus, very good friend of Jesus. He's dying. And they go get Jesus and say, would you come? And you got to pray for Lazarus. Yeah. He waits 4 more days. Not rushed. Well, we got to go. Guys, change everything. We got to go. No, he waits 4 more days and he gets there and everyone's freaking out and they're crying, if you would have just got here sooner. What does he do? Lazarus, come forth. Heals the dead guy. Jesus was never rushed. He was never rushed. He was never forced into something. If he wasn't rushed, why are we rushed? It always seems like we're running from something or we're running to something. That's just the reality of our life. That's what it seems like. Running maybe from past failures and discouragements and insecurities and past hurts and abuse. And maybe we're running to different relationships, or we're running to success. We're running to jobs. We're running to money. We're running to all the things that don't matter, thinking, hey, I could do it. Just turn up the speed a little bit more. And the problem is we're chasing a life that in the end leaves us empty. It leaves us empty. When you're running towards success, when you're running towards an image, when you're running to think, well, if I just become more popular, if I just become TikTok famous or Instagram famous, and if you're running towards just being liked and just being accepted, the problem is for most people in today's culture, they're chasing a life that still leaves them empty in the end. And what does the scripture say about that? Careful. Careful you don't gain the whole world and lose your soul. Careful, because there's so many people that are on that rat race thinking, I can just do more, I can accomplish more, I can get more, it's going to be good. Careful you don't gain the whole world and actually forfeit your soul. What if the greatest enemy to the life you want is the life that you're living? And I kind of chuckle when I get this. I hear this probably about once a month, twice a month when I'm connecting with people. Rob, you don't understand the busyness of life. You only work on Sundays. I work full time. That's what I hear. Well, they can't say that because we do a Thursday night service too. So really, you work on Thursdays and Sundays. That's it. The amount of people that I sit with. So what else do you do for a job? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, like besides the church, because you only like kind of work on Thursdays and Sundays. I said, no, that's my full-time job. Really? There's that much to do? No, there's not, but it's fun, and that way I don't have to work a full-time job. I love just working on Thursdays and Sundays. So many people think that. Rob, you don't understand. You don't understand. There's just not enough time. Here's an incredible truth, and let me say this in hopes of offending all of you. You actually have time for what you make time for. You have time for what you make time for. So the solution for your life is not more time. The solution is you investing your time in what matters most. You want to begin to see your life radically transform, and the reason you don't have time is because a lot of us are spending that time doing mindless things, doing things that don't matter. And why do I say that? Well, I decided just to bring out some stats for you. How many like stats? I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers. And so I said, I wonder what the numbers are in Canada. And there's different sites that you can go to about how much time Canadians spend on social media. And so I said, yeah. So I went to the site, and did you know the average Canadian, we're just going to say average of the 38 million Canadians, the average Canadian spends 10 hours a week on social media. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? A little over an hour a day, but when you think about it, over a year, it's 520 hours. Do you know how much time that is? 520 hours is if you had a job where you were working 8 hours, that's almost 3.5 months of a working job that you're spending on social media. Can I tell you, you have time for what you make time for. Some of you, that stat would be a little bit higher because some of you are on social media a whole lot more. And you know it because your phone tells you. This week, your screen time went up 35%, and you were on your phone this week for 36 hours. Right? We have time for what we make time for. Let's talk about TV. The average Canadian watches 1,119 hours of TV a year. 1,119 hours of TV a year. Oh, but it's okay. I get everything else done. I do it when everyone else is sleeping. And so, no, you have time for what you make time for. You have time for what you make time for. This one was really close to my heart because I've got a couple boys, and it says this, that the average male, by the time they turn 21, will have invested 10,000 hours in playing online video games. 10,000 hours. Do you know what you can do with 10,000 hours? Even if you got a job that wasn't even paying like minimum wage, if you got a job that was paying $10 an hour, in that 10,000 hours, you can accumulate after taxes $78,000. How many can use $78,000? You make time for what you have time for. You make time for what you have time for. You could read 2,000 books. In that 10,000 hours, you can actually go through a whole course and get your pilot's license. You have time for what you have time for. Now, let's even bring it down to something that really matters. What happens if you were to take those 520 hours and begin to pour it into your relationships at home? Begin to pour it into your marriage. Maybe you can save your marriage. Maybe you can reconcile a family. Maybe you can raise some strong kids. Or do we continually, mindlessly waste our life on what doesn't matter and continue to turn up the treadmill because we think we got to add more because we're not being fulfilled? What if the greatest enemy to your life is the life that you're living right now? So what do we do? What do we do? There's got to be something we do. There's got to be a better way. And again, this whole series is designed not to give you a quick fix, because this is not a quick fix. For some of you, it's a pattern you've learned. You've been living this way for a long time, so it's not like you can just change it overnight. But you can begin to develop the disciplines you need to actually slow down the treadmill. To actually slow it down and say, oh, I'm not going to add anything more. I'm going to begin to take some things away. Here's the deal. I think God wants us to live life at a slower pace. And when I read Psalm 23, it's interesting, right? We all quote this psalm, and we all know the psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Doesn't say he suggests. Doesn't say, hey, if you want it. He says, no. He actually makes me lie down. And I think that's how beautiful God is, that at times in your life, he's just going to say, sit. And you're not going to have a choice. He's actually going to make you rest. He's going to force you to rest. And that's a good thing. And that's a great thing. And we can get frustrated and discouraged. Oh, my life is falling apart. No. Just rest. Just rest. And I think the reality, what we need to do is get back to the basics. It's not complex. It's really not. Get back to the basics of who God is. And who is he? He's love. God is love. And what's the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Put him first. And what does Paul even write about love in the book of 1 Corinthians? Probably the best definition of love. What does he say? The very first thing, love is patient. It's not rushed. It takes time. And that's how we need to begin to live our life. And so I want to give you a prayer that you should start praying. And we're going to end with this prayer. But I believe if you begin to pray this prayer, it will radically help you slow down. It will radically help you begin to look at life and say, hey, I'm not just going to understand the truth of Jesus, but I'm actually going to begin to live the way that Jesus lived. I'm going to begin to love the way that Jesus loved. And this is the prayer. And we'll put it up on the screen. And this is it. God, help me to walk slowly enough to experience you fully and to love people deeply. God, help me to walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and to actually love people deeply. Because that's what we're called to do. That's the life that Jesus lived. That's what we're called when we're yoked to him. That's where we'll recover our life. That's where we'll learn the unforced rhythms of grace. That's where we'll begin to watch and learn from him every single day. That's where we'll learn how to be present in the moment. Because so many of us, we're not present in the moment. I'm the worst for this. But when I'm in conversations and my mind is like at times racing here, and at times I don't give people what they need because I'm not present in the moment. But when we begin to say, God, help me walk slowly enough to experience Jesus deeply, or experience him fully and to love people deeply, all of a sudden when I'm engaged in conversations, I'm going to listen a little bit more. I'm not going to be so quick to exit the conversation. I'm actually going to be willing, not even just to listen, but actually begin to hurt with people and feel what they're going through. And listen and truly listen and be somebody that they can lean into, because I think that's what Jesus would do. I really do. When we begin to pray that prayer and live the way that Jesus lived, we can begin to choose what's important and actually eliminate what's not important. Because you can look at your schedule right now. Can I tell you there's some things that are important? There's some things that aren't important, and we can get to that place. You know what? God, help me to say no to what doesn't matter, but help me to say yes to what does matter. That I'm going to invest my time wisely. And sometimes good things are actually robbing us of great things. Did you know that good is actually the enemy of best? And we take our time and we invest it kind of in good things, when God's saying that's not the most important thing. There's actually something better that you can invest your time in. And not that that's a bad thing. And here's what you got to realize. A no for now doesn't mean a no forever. It just means in this season, at this time, I'm not going to invest my time there. I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to choose what's important, and I'm going to eliminate what's not important. When you begin to pray this prayer, you'll begin to sense God's presence and actually recognize his voice. A lot of people, I hear that, how do I know it's God speaking to me? Can I tell you, chances are you're not going to hear the audible voice of God. That doesn't happen too often. When you see it in Scripture, it didn't happen too often. It did happen, and I've heard people who've had that encounter, but they're very, very rare. The number one way God speaks to us is through his word. That's tried, tested, and true. That he speaks through his word to every single day. And when you take time to invest your time into God's word, guess what? You're going to recognize his voice. You're going to encounter his presence. Every person Jesus loved, every miracle he did, when you look at it, he did it as he walked. As he just walked. Never rushed. God, help me to walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully, so I can love people deeply. And at the heart of it, where was Jesus walking? To the cross. He was walking to the cross every single day. Every single day for 33 years, he walked towards the cross. So when we know that Jesus is the way, we know that he's the way, we know that he's the truth, we know that he's alive. And we don't just embrace that truth that he taught, but we also live the way that he lived. And we love the way that he loved. And as we learn to walk with Jesus, as we're yoked to him, what's happening is we're becoming more like him every single day. More like him every single day. And get this is what got me excited as I was thinking about and praying through this series. Just imagine, if an angry and hurting and a divided world, imagine in that if there was a loving and caring united church, walking slowly enough to engage with those who are far from God. Imagine that. But the reality is the church is so busy with stuff, I think we forget what's really important. That Jesus did come to seek and save that which was lost. Not to have fancy lights and incredible music, not to have a nice building. Those are all great and they're good things. But what if we truly began to be that church that's walking slowly enough in our world to begin to recognize the hurt, the frustration, and the discouragement on people from all different walks of life, and we began to engage them there? Because I think that's what Jesus would do. I don't think Jesus would say, oh my goodness, I got to be at Vanier Community Church. They're starting at 10:30. I don't got time for this. He would engage them. He would walk slowly enough to experience his Father fully so he can love deeply. And I think how beautiful that Jesus kind of stepped out to show the love of God, that he stepped out of heaven. He came to earth to be that perfect, that sinless person who day after day walked towards the cross to give his life for yours. And if you're following Jesus, if you're truly following Jesus, if you're walking with him, you're walking every single day to lay down your life for something so much more important. And the answer is not more time. The answer is more of what matters. And you actually have time for what you make time for. So let's stand. And I want to pray. God, we simply come before you today realizing that, we're rushed. We're living a busy life that's not making time for what matters most, and that's you. First and foremost, it's you, Jesus. And God, we ask for your forgiveness for that. God, even for all the good things that we're trying and we think that we're accomplishing more and the more that we're just adding to our life, and if I can just serve here, or if I just give here, or if I just do this, or if I just help so-and-so. God, realizing those are good things, but they're actually robbing us of the great things. God, help us to slow down. God, help us to really walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully, and so we can love people deeply. God, that would be the mark of this church, that we would be an unrushed church. We would be a church that has made the choice to not just know you, not just to declare your truth, but actually to live and love the way that you lived and loved. God, from this moment on, again, we make the choice to walk with you. Not to try to do it on our own, because we need you. And so, God, I'm praying you would show us those things in our life that maybe we need to unload. God, those good things that maybe we need to unload that are robbing us of time with you, that are robbing us and helping us to stay busy, and helping us to stay almost in sprint mode on that treadmill. And we become so accustomed to the speed of life that it almost doesn't even faze us anymore. But then we wonder why we're frustrated and discouraged and empty. Jesus, help us to slow down. That 2022 would be a year of just a nice stroll with you. A nice stroll with you every single day, getting to know you deeper and love people more deeply. God, that's what we ask for in your wonderful name. I'll tell you what, if you're here this morning and maybe you are on a spiritual journey, maybe you were invited to church, maybe somebody sent you the link and you're watching online, and Jesus is not the center of your life. And what do I mean by that is that you've never made a choice to surrender your life and say yes to him. Because the reality for every single one of us, that was the missing piece. And for some of us, we've come to that conclusion and that understanding where our lives are empty and void, and we've made the choice to say, Jesus, I can't do this on my own anymore. We've come to the point to realize that left to our own, we're a sinner. And believe it or not, every single person in this room is a sinner. No matter how good you think you are, we're all sinners and we all fall short of God's incredible glory and grace. But Jesus, God loved us enough that he sent his son to die for us, to fulfill that mission over 33 years, every day walking towards the sacrifice so you and I can have life. So you and I can live a free, full life. So you and I can actually make the choice to say, Jesus, I want to live with you. And that's what it comes down to, is you making that choice. Nobody can make it for you. It's not going to church. It's not watching televangelists or listening to different podcasts that talk about spiritual things. It's about you making a choice and saying yes to Jesus. Yes. It's about you looking at your life and saying, I'm empty and I'm void. Jesus, forgive me for living that way. Forgive me for my sin. And today I make the choice to surrender to you. That's when change happens. That's when you begin to recover your life and you begin to live that full life. And it's only in a surrendering to Jesus that we actually find the fullness and the promise that we're all looking for and longing for. Purpose, identity, meaning, it's only in Jesus. And so we love to give people the opportunity every single week, not joining a church, but saying yes to Jesus. And I'm going to ask everyone to bow your heads. And if you're here today and you've never said yes to Jesus, I want you to hear me clearly on this. I'm not talking about you've been in church and you've said yes to Jesus and you're just struggling with sin. This is not about that. There's forgiveness for you. You just got to ask for it. But I'm talking about for a very first time that today you want to say yes to Jesus. You say, that's what's missing from my life. I need that fullness. I need that purpose. Rob, would you pray with me? If that's you, really quick, I'm going to ask you to slip up your hand if there's anybody. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. That's incredible. Tell you what. We do this every single week. We all pray together, and we do it because we're a family. And let's pray this prayer. Say, Jesus, I need you. My life is so busy. And it's so empty. And I'm done. I'm done with the rat race of life. I make the choice today to say yes to you. Would you forgive me of my sin? Would you cleanse me? And I make the choice to follow you, to serve you, to love you, to be yoked to you, to walk with you all the days of my life. Today, my life is yours. In your wonderful name I pray. And everybody said, amen. Yeah. Well, bless you guys. Hey, listen, we encourage you. If you got kids downstairs, before you begin to fellowship, go downstairs, get your kids checked out, and then you can hang out and fellowship as much as you want. If you would like prayer for anything, we have some people here who are made themselves available to pray with you. Please don't rush off without getting prayer if you need it. Bless you guys. Go out and live the way that Jesus lived.